All right, folks. Hope everyone's ready for a massive session here tonight. We're going to run it up. It's February 8th, 2024. Bitcoin back above 46,000. The markets just keep on printing green candles like everything is A-OK in the world. And obviously, we got to break it down. We have our President Joe Biden making an appearance and some news coming out here today. Some reports, some information that is quite alarming for any concerned American, and probably for folks even outside of our country that are just wondering what the heck is going on. And we got to listen to someone outside of our country here today with the release of the Tucker Carlson and Mr. Vladimir Putin interview. So on the current event world stage, we get a little insight and we get to hear the other side of the story. And there's always three sides to the coin, right? There's both sides, and then on the edge is where we find that true intelligence. Understanding what the desires and the goals, objectives from both sides is very important. And of course, we don't get objective media here in the United States, and that's why we continue to show up here every single day, breaking down the current events, what's happening on this world stage, and how's it going to impact us? Because it's one thing to talk politics all day, which is not what we're here to do. I'm not here to debate left or right, or who's right, who's wrong, as you know, a world leader done something evil or not. We're going to find that out. The beautiful thing here where we're at now is this internet, the decentralized media, the power behind it, back in the hands of the people, the ability for Tucker Carlson to show up and do what journalists are supposed to be doing. A great day for free speech and journalism worldwide, and the American media in full meltdown. You absolutely love to see it. So we're going to break it down. It's a full update here tonight. Going to be a massive session, so much to cover. And we're going to be talking Q4 2023 markets report from Ripple as well. So we have so much to break down. I printed this out here as well too. And this is the updated Q4 2023 XRP markets report from Ripple. Once again, I continue to check my thesis and I look across the board on these fundamentals, and the case just keeps on getting stronger and stronger. And you guys already know the deal. I have nothing to sell you. I don't have any sponsors. Everything is at my website, ZachRector.com. You guys see it right there behind me. Let's rock and roll. So as we said, markets back up, and we're looking at a $46,000 Bitcoin. Fantastic, right? And we see Ethereum back up to 2,450. XRP pushing up towards 52 cents. We'll continue to watch it. XLM back here at 11 cents. And Algo 17. We see XDC 4.25 cents, right? Just over 4 cents. Quant back down to 104, and Solana at 104. Interesting. Now, Flare has cooled back off. It did go back and retest this level that I had put on my chart here, this yellow horizontal line at basically 2.75 cents. And that's where we, touched back to right here at this level. And then we've recovered since, with the whole market kind of going back up here today. This is the daily chart, and we've kind of seen some green candles for the last week, right, as we've ran back up. We've been warning about this bull trap rally that's taken place. And, what's interesting here is we saw the DXY moving back up after the Fed speak, after Jerome Powell took the podium. See that DXY dollar index going back up, which did correlate to Bitcoin doing a back test. That was the back test right in here before we continued back up. And then once again back in here last week. And then right before the Jerome Powell special, right? Then Jerome Powell spoke, and then everyone started to rally, and the market was back up. And we're watching as the bonds sell off. Bonds back up here, 4.444 for your 2-year, and for your 10-year, you're at 4.14. Oil hovering, and we're right here at the $81 level once again. Silver and gold have both been hit, back to 22.5 for silver as it was back up today, and gold holding on to that 2,000 support. Now, this is where the green candles have just been ridiculous. Nvidia on a tear back up to $700. Amazon, $169, right? Moving back up to new all-time highs. A $5,000 S&P 500 finally achieved today. Let me know in the comments down below if you're trying to buy all-time high on the stock market, the overvalued stock market that's hitting all-time highs with all things considered, right? There's just no stopping it. Personally, I'm not interested. You guys know my deal, though. I'm not here to give you financial advice. That's just where we're at on the markets. Where are we at with the President of the United States? Listen in, folks. Biden meltdown as he gets grilled on his memory capacity. Uh-oh.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
Do you
my
feel your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
No, you guys know what I say. How's your program working out? I thought that Biden was about to drop a "how's your program working out" on us, right? How do we get that done? That's pretty good, you know. He speaks with a little bit of energy still once in a while, right? It takes him a second to get warmed up. Got to get warmed up again, and then he, kind of hits kind of hard. But then he just clearly, maybe he's just a little bit forgetful these days. Biden refers to the Egyptian president El-Sisi as the president of Mexico. And this was directly after he claimed that his memory is perfectly fine.
The conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top.
Where are we?
I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side.
I love how he still talks tough, right? Has no idea what leader he's talking about, what region of the planet we're talking about, but he still has a little oomph there in his speech there. I like that. Joe Biden and getting completely exposed here today. I'll just let the mainstream news broadcasting company speak for itself. I don't want to show any bias, so I'm just going to let MSNBC speak for us. Listen in on this clip of what Joe Biden is getting questioned about and why he showed up on the podium here today to answer questions from pre-selected media, by the way, that was allowed to come in and ask him questions. And clearly, even with the pre-selected media, he was still struggling significantly. But what was this all about? I'm going to let MSNBC tell you.
We have breaking news, major news. Special counsel Robert Hur has declined to prosecute President Biden for his handling of classified documents. Forgive me, I'm reading directly from our top lines. He said Biden's practices, though, present serious risks to national security, and added that President Biden portrayed himself as an elderly man with a poor memory who would be sympathetic to a jury. Quote, our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen, the report said. But the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, this is the special counsel investigation by Robert Hur, who was confirmed under Donald Trump, into President Biden's handling of classified documents.
There you have it, folks. No charges are going to be brought, no prosecution. Can anybody tell me in the comments down below that we don't have a two-tier justice system? Can anybody honestly say that at this point? This isn't a left-right question. This is a matter of law and order. Do we have a two-tier justice system or not? You guys let me know in the comments down below. Their defense is that this is a senile old man who a jury would be sympathetic to, as we all are listening to him. I mean, it's like painful. I think about if that was my grandfather, my great-grandfather, right? Like I would be very concerned. I would be pulling him off stage, right? Like it's taken him like 30 seconds to even get his sentence started and warmed up. And I mean, you don't have to pick a side to see that. And this is leading us into them pulling that 25th, in my opinion. And they're going to pull in the new wild card, the Joker card. They're going to pull something up their sleeve here, and I don't know if it's going to be Newsom. I don't know if it's going to be Michelle Obama. She says she doesn't want to be president after watching what her husband went through. You guys let me know in the comments down below who's going to be the ringer that comes in to save the day, because it, to me, is so clear that there's no way they are going to try to run him. Now, what comes out of this is very interesting. This is the special counsel investigating Biden's handling of classified documents. They note that he has significant memory issues. He did not remember when he was vice president. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. This isn't even like a joke. This is just sad. Mr. Biden's memory also appeared to have significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to Zwanitzer in 2017, as evidenced by their recorded conversations, and today as evidenced by his recorded interview with our office. Mr. Biden's recorded conversations with Zwanitzer from 2017 are often painfully slow, with Mr. Biden struggling to remember events and straining at times to read and relay his own notebook entries. In his interview with our office, Mr. Biden's memory was worse. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president, is what he said. He couldn't remember. And forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began, in 2009, am I still vice president? He asked. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. And his memory appeared hazy when describing the Afghanistan debate that was once so important to him. Among other things, he mistakenly said he, quote, had a real difference of opinion with General Carl Eikenberry, when in fact Eikenberry was an ally whom Mr. Biden cited approvingly in his Thanksgiving memo to President Barack Obama. Folks, this is where we get embarrassed on the world stage here. Falling empire. And the main question that we have to ask is who is the puppet master behind Biden? It's clearly not this guy's operating. You know, this guy's not running the show. So who is? We got to get to that. It is clear that we have unelected leadership in our country. This guy's not present. I'm not talking about any sort of elections. I'm just saying right now he's not there. So who's running our country? And we just continue to watch this unbelievable. The United States Congress, no shame, no switching off of their program, which is just to continue kicking the can down the road, selling out our future children, and sending hundreds of billions, and then it ends up being trillions of dollars that we sent to the Middle East. And I guess we're trying to break records again. You know, we're going to try to send more to Israel, more to Gaza, more to Taiwan and Ukraine than we did to the Middle East. You know, we wasted about 2-3 trillion in the Middle East. Looks like we're on pace to pass that rather shortly. The Senate just voted 67-32 in favor of advancing a $95 billion foreign aid bill for Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, and Taiwan without the border provisions. Remember, they couldn't get it passed because they, were saying that this was a border bill that secured the border. Well, it did everything besides that. And then what they also were trying to include was all this foreign aid. Now, the Republicans who voted in favor, I don't even need to read off the names. It's the usual gang of sellouts. It's just the regular sellouts. You know, I see sellouts on with R's next to their name, with D next to their name, with other things next to their name. You know, I don't discriminate as far as making poor decisions on behalf of the American people, selling out our children's future. I have no bias there. I have an allegiance to the truth. That's all this is for me. An allegiance to the truth. Now, today we get to see a historical moment. Mr. Tucker Carlson going to interview Mr. Putin just, 2 days ago? And the interview aired today on X and then on his website, Tucker Carlson's website. And what a true success story. That's, a big inspiration for me. Not that I particularly I don't really listen to Tucker's, a lot of his stuff, right? Definitely listen to this one. This is a must watch. And he's been putting out some bangers that are absolute must-watch interviews, right? Super important, super critical to understanding what's taking place in the world and in the United States in particular. But this interview with Tucker Carlson, with Mr. Putin, obviously historical situation. I mean, we're talking about history books being written right now as we speak, folks. We're going to be looking back on this moment as time as significant as World War II, World War I, currency resets in 1971. That's the beautiful thing about this moment is a little bit of everything. Currency reset, revaluation, debt, liquidity, currency crisis, war, the whole 9 yards, the whole program. This is a fully, a full play here for us all to watch on the world stage and then bringing it back to the United States and the falling empire. Now, I thought that General Mike Flynn had a good comment here on the historical interview. He says, I'm certain there will be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, but the likely rules of engagement for this interview were probably negotiated well ahead of time to get this much time and to have this wide-ranging of an interview what my big takeaway is, despite US presidents plural over many decades, remember, this isn't left, right. This is presidents from both sides, right? Plural. Over many decades deciding to seek peace and reconciliation, although not all of them, those decisions are nullified and undermined by the dug-in security and military-industrial complex ticks living in the bowels of the deep state. They are deep in there, aren't they? And it is a swamp. And these people are absolutely sick. We need strong leadership running our White House, and we need the same running our state houses too. November cannot come quick enough. Lastly, watching Joe Biden tonight simultaneously made me feel ill about the current state of leadership running our nation. We're in big trouble, and we have a demented president driving the American train, which is fast going off the rails. God help us. Yeah, I thought that summarized it pretty well. Once again, as Mr. Putin, laid out in the interview here tonight, he's just asked the United States to stop funding this war. Tucker asked him, why don't you call up Joe Biden? And Putin said, what do I have to talk about with him, right? I've already asked them to stop supplying weapons, and they just keep on rolling out new weapons, more packages. And even though we can't afford it, which is my main issue as an American, whether you want to support this country, this group, that group, whoever you feel like we need to give money to, we are broke. Period, full stop. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the conversation. The discussion ends there. We are broke. We cannot continue to run these deficits, right? And he mentioned it, that we're doing it to ourselves, destroying the US dollar reserve currency. And even though we can't afford it, we just keep on signing the bill. I mean, the amount of money that they're looking to send over here, $95 billion. What's another $95 billion? It's funny. Seeing that headline, $95 billion, doesn't sound like that much, does it? We've become numb to billions of dollars, tens of billions, hundreds of billions, and even trillions. We have $34 trillion in debt. Remember when it was the big deal? We went to 30. I remember when it was a big deal when we went to 20. That wasn't that long ago. And then the period from 33 to 34 was what? A few months? It's nothing anymore. What do these numbers even mean anymore? Now, this is one clip. I'm going to drop a full summary video tomorrow on Putin and Tucker's interview, but here's just one little session right here. Putin says other countries, including oil producers, are thinking of and already accepting payments for oil in yuan. Do you even realize what's going on or not? Does anyone in the United States realize this? What are you doing? Ask any intelligent and thinking person in the U.S. what the dollar means for the U.S. You are killing it with your own hands. So this is exactly what we've been talking about. We just want to bring it back to the money. We want to bring it back to how is this going to impact us, right? We can talk too about the military conflict, right? The kinetic battle that is taking place. Our troops, and even Putin called it out in this interview in regards to U.S. troops coming, because Tucker basically, explained to him how Chuck Schumer was just saying that if we didn't pass this most recent funding bill, that U.S. troops were going to be fighting against Russians in Ukraine. And Mr. Putin said, well, why? You already have private military contractors there, right? And I think that he said the number one country for private military contractors is Poland, and then the U.S. is behind it, and then Georgia, I believe. Or maybe it's U.S. is in the lead. You guys can let me know in the comments down below. But he said, it's basically Poland, the U.S., and then Georgia with all these private military contractors at this point. This is the real state of warfare. This is current war. This is not how it was done in World War II. I love watching the history documentaries about World War II, right? And just observing how the kinetic battle took place back then versus how it takes place in multiple dimensions. Literally. Literally. This is a cyber war at this point, right? An AI war, a tech war. But it all comes back down to the currencies and the commodities that we all need. And as he said here, the oil producers, many of them are already accepting yuan. They're already moving ahead. Putin says the dollar is the cornerstone of the United States power. I think everyone understands that very well. No matter how many dollars are printed, they're quickly dispersed all over the world. It is a stupid thing to do and a great mistake. I agree. And it was interesting, he said that they didn't even want to they didn't want to stop using the US dollar completely. They were forced to when the Russian assets were freezed. not just the Russian government's assets, but the oligarchs and all the wealthy of Russia. Basically, all their assets were seized, frozen, and they've been captured, seized assets, literally. And so Putin said, we didn't even want to, drop it completely. We were just forced to, right? It's a defensive measure on that front, right? And I'm not going to debate Ukraine here. I'll talk about that more in the separate video tomorrow that I drop, breaking down this in full summary. But the point being, this comes back to that currency and commodity war. And Russia, they're sitting on plenty of resources, and they're not the only ones. See, we've been trained with our mainstream media telling us that it's only Russia that's trying to get away from the US dollar. That's not the case. There's plenty of other countries that we're not at war with. There's plenty of our own allies that are trying to get away from the US dollar. So we can't have the blinders on. We have to recognize what is taking place right now. Let's continue on here, folks. This is where the shift takes place. What I'm about to show you next is where the shift takes place, and we're about to get into the cryptocurrency update as well too. But this is where the shift takes place from a fiat funny money stock market, and it moves into real value. And you're talking about undervalued commodities. You're talking about an energy sector. Just check out this data point right here from Tavi Costa. This is truly puzzling, right? With a $3 trillion market cap, Microsoft is twice the size of the entire energy sector in the S&P 500, which generates double Microsoft's annual free cash flow. The math ain't mathin'. No matter how you determine the value of those equities, the math ain't mathin' when you look at that, right? How is that possible? Other than we have a bunch of people with a bunch of fiat funny money that are looking to get return, looking to get yield. And they have to go risk on because the rate of inflation, even back here in the United States, is significant, even if we go off of the government lie, the CPI lie of about 3.4%. We know it's a whole heck of a lot worse, which means that I can't go out and seek a 5% yield. I can't go out and seek a 10% yield. I mean, 10%'s break even probably. If we consider real year over year inflation, probably closer to, 6 to 10% right now. And then if we consider aggregate inflation over the last 3 years since 2020, we're looking at aggregate inflation of 20 to 25% plus on anything that matters. And this is where the shift starts to happen eventually, right? And the investments have been made in these other countries. They're getting away from the US dollar, and they're getting investment from BRICS nations like China predominantly, and they're accepting yuan. They're taking out debt denominated in yuan, and they're allowing the Chinese to come develop. They're doing deals with Russia outside US dollar. And even the OPEC oil producers, right, are now doing deals with France and some of our allies outside of the US dollar. And these Middle East OPEC countries were supposed to be our biggest allies. That's what the whole backing of the US dollar has been. It was gold, and then it wasn't gold in 1971 when Nixon took us off the gold standard. It became the petrodollar when Kissinger went around and got all the deals signed, right, for the petrodollar backing in 1973, 74. Got all those deals done, and then we've just backed it up with the largest military known to man. And if you go against this, you know the deal. This story is coming to an end. And real value is going to be found in the commodities and the currencies that actually do have some sort of backing. Look at this data point right here, folks. COMEX silver vaults drop 1.6 million ounces. These days just keep on going by where we see millions of ounces getting cleaned out in one single day. And I put this up to visualize this for you. This is only 10 ounces. This is a 10-ounce bar. It's a little guy. I got myself a little bag of silver. If you guys are looking to get precious metals, you know where to do it. You know someone else who's getting delivery of metals? That would be the U.S. Mint. This is from February 7th, yesterday. U.S. Mint takes delivery of 20 million raw gold from whoever that is, right? 20 million ounces of raw gold, 6.5 million ounces of raw gold from another group, 13.5 million gold blanks from Leach Garner Inc., and 21.6 million silver blanks from Sunshine Minting, on top of 21.6 million ounce delivery on the day before, February 6th. So the mint taking in, I mean, you tally that up, right? You're talking tens of millions of ounces in just a couple days that the U.S. Mint is taking delivery on. And just last week, I reported on how they were taking another 10 million in delivery on gold and silver as well. I mean, this has been consistent. And then we go to the COMEX vaults, consistently getting cleaned out. We watch as gold is trading at all-time high in all these other currencies. It went and achieved a new all-time high against the US dollar. That was a historical moment that nobody's even recognizing because what? Nvidia's printing green candles. S&P 500 at all-time high. Everybody wants to go chase 10 to 50% on memes and stocks and pump it up. What comes next, though, is the shift from equities to commodities as we begin a commodity super cycle, in my opinion, where we start to realize where real estate's going to go. I consider real estate to be a packaged up commodity. All of the materials that go into building that, the raw materials, the copper, the wood, right, the lumber, the concrete, all of that, the labor that goes in to produce that, right? It's a packaged up commodity, real estate. We look at cryptocurrency commodities like an XRP. It's a currency, but it's also got utility, just like gold, just like silver. Can be used monetarily as a currency, also has utility value. So we look at crypto commodities being included in the commodity super cycle. The precious metals, gold's already started to break out. Silver needs to play catch up. If you guys are looking for reputable sources, I have them at my website, zachrector.com. You can roll over a 401k retirement account or just get the metal shipped directly to you. And you can be like myself, you can be like the US Mint and just take the delivery of it. Either way you want it, we'll get it to you. Let's get into cryptocurrency. This is massive. Folks, hold up. Let me take a deep breath before I roll into this. This is such a big day today. I'm covering half of everything that I have to cover. More content's going to be dropping tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. I haven't done a live in a few days. I've been just dropping video after video after video because there's so much happening. Today's live session going to be massive. There's still way more to cover. But the fact of what is getting dropped right now, how massive it is putting this whole thing together full circle for us. This is the great reveal. What's happening with Biden, the conversation Tucker and Putin, and now what's happening in the digital asset space, or should we call it the crypto asset security space? Check this out, folks. It's out here for all of us to see now. Prometheum, the SEC sanctioned crypto asset security platform. Prometheum Capital is thrilled to announce ETH as the first digital asset security for institutional custody on our platform. Say what? Can we repeat what you just said? We are thrilled, just thrilled to announce ETH as the first digital asset security for institutional custody on their platform. Institutions can sign up now at prometheum.com in preparation for our upcoming custodial services. Folks, the digital asset securities ecosystem for institutions, the regulated path forward for digital asset securities. Chad Steinbragger, our good friend right here, Steingrabber right here, Chad, gotta love him. Sharing this from Prometheum website. I mean, this is them sharing out this tweet just earlier today. Don't miss Aaron's chat, that's the CEO and founder, with Tony at Thinking Crypto as they explore Prometheum Capital's Ethereum custody launch and the company's approval of its membership application from FINRA as an SPBD permitted to custody, clear, and settle digital asset securities by the SEC. And do you wonder why Gary Gensler so desperately wants the crypto industry labeled under securities? This is the first SEC-sanctioned and FINRA-sanctioned crypto asset securities dealer. What is the first asset offered? Ethereum. Hold up. Where's my? I took my red folder off the desk. I took my Ethereum green folder off the desk. This is everything that we've been fighting against right here. And now they finally admit it. We've been pounding the desk. Why can no one from the SEC come out and just straight up answer the question, is Ethereum a security, yes or no? Nobody can answer. Gary Gensler can't talk about it. Former SEC chair Jay Clayton can't talk about it. Hester Pierce, one of the vocal commissioners that's actually putting up somewhat of a resistance, can't talk about Ethereum. And now we see that the SEC changed up the rules earlier this week for securities broker dealers, changing the definition to include an AMM, an automated market maker, which I'm sure is just a crazy coincidence considering that the XRP ledger is finally getting an AMM. And now the SEC says that anybody who adds funds, adds liquidity to liquidity pools, needs to register as a broker dealer. They change and create that rule just on their own choosing in a 3-2 vote, 2 dissenting commissioners and Gary Gensler being that third deciding vote to implement those rules. And now we see Prometheum come out here offering the first ever crypto asset security on this new FINRA and SEC sanctioned platform. Oh, really? Folks, it's all here before us. And this is the thing. We've been talking about how Ethereum, the ICO, was definitely a securities offering. 100%. Nobody's in denial of that, right? But then the question then becomes, is today's Ethereum, with the proof of stake consensus, and with what some would argue the lack of decentralization, is it still a security? Clearly, Prometheum, an SEC and FINRA sanctioned entity, believes it so. I mean, folks, this is so crazy to see this coming full circle. I mean, I was losing my mind today with all of the news that was coming out. It was just one after another. From Biden to Putin to now the SEC, right? And then we also get this one coming out here today. Some of these Republicans are starting to act tough, starting to act like they're going to do something. We saw Warren Davidson, they created this oversight committee, or it's a government overreach committee, something like that, right? Where they got a new committee so that they can go get that SEC and government overreach. Yeah, okay. Not going to hold my breath on that one. But what we now have is some senators writing a letter here. Republican senators have gotten wind of the debt box fiasco where the SEC intentionally misled a court in order to gain access to emergency relief measures against the company. That's right, folks. That's right. The judge was set to sanction them and still might. The SEC is now asking for the case to be dismissed completely. Please understand, our SEC and the thugs that they are, if they want to shut you down, they go around here, and in this case, they fought and intentionally misled a court in order to gain emergency relief measures against the company, i.e., freeze their assets and issue a restraining order against them. And it was all lies. It was completely lies. And the judge called them out on it. And now the SEC wants to say, okay, we give up. We're just kidding about that lawsuit. Can we just dismiss this and go on? And please don't sanction us. I pray that that judge does what's right and slap sanctions on them. This is absurd. And finally, we're starting to see some folks in the politicians starting to recognize. We'll see if they ever do anything about it. But what we have here is a group of senators that includes J.D. Vance and Senator Loomis, saying that it's skeptical of the mandatory training the agency is requiring for its lawyers as a remedy to the situation. Quote, perhaps such training in the most elementary aspects of legal conduct is necessary. Folks, this is just flat out lying. That's what this is. That's what we're dealing with. They have no shame. We've completely exposed it. We're about to expose it with this XRP Unleashed documentary too, because you have to include that part of the story in the timeline. It's absolutely necessity. It's an absolute necessity. Why? Because our government sued us. This is the whole reason why we've had to fight a legal battlefield. Why I've become friends with multiple lawyers now. I talk to multiple lawyers on a regular basis, and with all these cases here, I'm printing out legal documents, trying to break this down and understand this legal battlefield that we find ourselves in. It's been a complete mess. But what's been the common denominator? Complete corruption and regulatory capture by the SEC and other agencies. Now, despite what we're up against, we are coming into the great unveiling of the true intentions of Ripple with XRP. What comes with that is an IPO. Now, every time I talk about an IPO, it's funny because folks get so worked up. No IPO anytime soon. They're not going to IPO in the US. They're not going to do this and that. That's fine. Maybe they never do. Maybe they never go public. They have plenty of money. I'm about to show you a tweet that talks about this. But I'm here to tell you that if they do go public, I am firmly now standing behind, and I am of the opinion that there's a very good chance that they might just have the largest IPO ever if the SEC allows it, because that's who they'd have to get approval from, right? The reason why I'm saying that is because the largest IPO ever was Saudi Aramco at 25.6 billion, and Ripple is sitting on the equivalent of that in XRP alone, right? I guess they're sitting on about 40 billion in escrow, and then they're sitting on some more XRP outside of the escrow. So when we just look at their holdings of XRP alone, their assets are worth over 20 billion. 25.6 with Saudi Aramco, and this is with XRP at a 50-cent price. It doesn't take much if XRP just goes to $1, $2, and that's when Ripple does an IPO, and their bag of XRP is worth $50 billion at $1. You see how crazy this gets? You see why this isn't a joke when we talk about this company? You see why I have no time for the nonsense anymore? Because the fundamentals can just continue to get better. Despite the amount of noise that retail wants to make about price action, show me where we're wrong on the fundamentals in the investment thesis, please. I dare you. You can't. So they make up lies. They make up disinformation. This has been the XRP psyop that we've seen ran against us in the crypto space, primarily from Bitcoin and Ethereum maxis. And it went as far as our own government suing us and tried to include the entire XRP community, saying that we were all selling unregistered securities. But we fought back, we won, and what comes out on the other side of this is the spotlight gets shined on our story. Not just from the documentary that's going to come out, but from the IPO that's going to happen, from XRP's performance in this coming bull run, which is going to once again shock the masses in the cryptocurrency space as a whole. I firmly believe that. And the IPO, in the story of we fought the SEC, an SEC that people from both sides of the aisle, anybody who just wants healthy capital markets in the US, sees the corruption at the SEC and thinks that it's absolutely terrible. So if you're someone in today's day and age that is going up against the SEC, spending $200 million and defeating them, that's a story that the common man and woman wants to get behind, and the largest institutional investors as well, that know that, you know, even though the SEC and the gang tried to take down Ripple and XRP, they weren't able to. Now we see this tweet right here. Ripple going public will be the biggest IPO ever. We see former employee of Google, Amazon, and Ripple, Sean McBride, comment. He says potentially with their most recent buyback and the amount of capital they have, along with zero overhead, their current valuation would be somewhere between 11 and 30 billion, potentially more. Also, the way things are looking, they will likely IPO outside the US when the time comes. As I said, I don't think that they will do it outside the US, but that's always an option. Anders tweets, I love you, Ripple, and I believe in your founder's vision, but your ability to create enemies is unmatched. The gift and the curse of excellence. That's what happens when you go to put a dent in the universe. You're not going to make everyone happy. And that's the mentality that I like, right? Are we here to be liked, or are we here to be effective? Are we here to change the world, right? And Johnny right here on Twitter, I thought gave a perfect response here. This is so true. They have a ton of capital, so they don't have to raise any money. Right? They're flush with cash and XRP. They're disrupting the status quo, and they're not giving huge discounts on XRP through OTC. They're also fast, cheap, and scale. Every incumbent's and VC's worst nightmare. Exactly. And they've been buying back their own stock as well. And if they're willing to buy it back at an $11 billion valuation, then what do you think the future potential is in their eyes? What's their investment thesis on buying back their own shares, on buying back a significant amount of XRP? Now, we're going to get into it with this Q4 2023 markets report. If you're still with me, I appreciate you for stopping by for the live show tonight. Where are we at? 40 minutes. Look at that. We're right on time. It's going to take me a minute to go through this Q4 2023 markets report. I've been trying to go through this update as fast as possible because we have so much to cover, and I'm trying not to run it up for too long while we enjoy ourselves an adult beverage, because this world's absolutely insane. So sometimes it's nice to, enjoy ourselves when we cover this heavy news. But what just got revealed here in this report right here, Q4 2023 market report, is nothing but momentum and excellence in the digital asset and in the broader financial system, budging their way, politely budging their way into the new financial system, and just excellence and standing out and speaking on cleaning up the digital asset space. Let's get into it, folks. I got my pink highlighter out earlier here today. We're going to talk about it. Appreciate everyone for stopping by. Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, let's rock and roll. Q4 2023 XRP markets report from Team Ripple delivered February 7, 2024. Here we go. So what we see right here, let's skip on down real quick. The DC Circuit Court's rejection of the SEC case against Grayscale's spot Bitcoin ETF application sparked the crypto rally at the end of October. Okay. Simultaneously, the Fed's stance towards interest rates became more dovish, resulting in a broader market rally for US stocks and bonds as well. And then they go in to talk about how the Bitcoin ETFs were also part of that hype. So remember, it was that huge victory in October that Grayscale achieved against the SEC. And then that same month in October, that's when the fake news came out about the spot Bitcoin ETF. So that's the other part, right, that we have to add the fuel on the fire there. And then we also got the Bitcoin ETFs accelerated approval for 11 applications were granted across the board. On the first day of trading, we had $4.5 billion. They call this a watershed moment for the crypto industry and a signal of increased institutional adoption and demand amongst sophisticated investors. Then they go on to talk about cleaning up the space, with CZ stepping down due to the US government's investigation of the company's compliance policies, right? They step down, Binance loses 15% of market share, and we have some other exchanges like Upbit, Coinbase, and a few others that really gain in popularity. But this is what's interesting to me. The CME, which is the futures derivatives market for crypto, right? The Wall Street futures market for crypto, has also seen a massive spike in open interest, almost 300% to 6 billion in Q4, which now makes it the largest crypto derivatives venue for futures. So we have the largest derivatives venue for futures in crypto taking place there in the CME group. Now, let's continue on here. Spot XRP volumes rebounded strongly over Q4 with daily trading reaching 600 million a day on average, up 75 to 100% from the lows of Q3. So we got increased volume back up to 600 million a day. We want to get this thing well into the billions once again, right? During the bull run, when we had higher prices, obviously that brings up that dollar amount, but we also had more volume and activity. So we're looking for this to grow. Once we cross back over that billion mark, we'll know that we're well on our way into that next bull run, which is coming for XRP. This is in line with the rest of the market, which also saw Bitcoin volumes up 88% and ETH up 140% quarter over quarter. Okay. Now, they continue on here. Banner year for Ripple wins against the SEC. Imagine being able to report that, right? In your quarterly markets report, one of your sections is titled Banner Year for Us Defeating the SEC. You gotta love it. In 2023, significant legal victories in the United States marked a turning point for clarifying the legal status of XRP. On July 13th, Ripple notched a critical victory in its hard-fought litigation with the SEC, with the court holding that XRP in and of itself is not a security under federal law. The court also held that a majority of Ripple's sales and distributions of XRP did not constitute investment contracts and were therefore lawful, including XRP transactions on crypto exchanges. After the court's July ruling, the judge denied the SEC's bid for an interlocutory appeal, and the SEC dismissed with prejudice all claims against Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse, personally vindicating both. The ruling was a resounding win, not just for Ripple, but for the entire crypto industry. It marked the first victory against the SEC and set a precedent for other tokens in the US, laying the groundwork for others to determine the tokens in and of themselves are not securities. Now they continue on here. While Ripple celebrates its important victory, the company also acknowledges that the courts found that certain historical XRP sales that Ripple made to sophisticated entities, institutional sales, were investment contracts and therefore should have been registered with the SEC. This is where they lost, right? Looking ahead, Ripple and the SEC will enter the remedies phase of the case, which is what they're currently in, focused on institutional sales. We're in the discovery We're in the discovery phase of remedies. Okay, that's where we're at right now. And remember, the SEC was just granted access to the 2022 and 2023 financial statements of Ripple, and then all post-complaint ODL sales to institutions get handed over to the SEC along with the proceeds. So, legal briefs will be submitted in March and April of this year, and then the court will decide which remedies to impose. So this gets done by March and April, and that's why we're looking for probably in May. May that sun shine down on us with full clarity and the case behind us, as we're now looking and we predict, based off of John Deaton's expertise, right, that the fine is going to be much less than the legal fees that Ripple paid of $200 million. And so for me, I'm looking at sub $50 million remedies that Ripple has to pay. And the SEC is going to tout around that big fat check. They're going to act like they protected someone, even though we know that that's not the case at all. But this is what is so important. This might be one of the most important basically things that it was said in this market report, because it proves what me and many others have been saying about Ripple's ongoing sales. Even prior to the court's July ruling, Ripple had changed the way it sold XRP, and going forward, we will ensure that Ripple's sales conform to the legal standards articulated by the court. Ripple will continue to raise the bar on compliance, ethics, and transparency, and invest the resources necessary to ensure compliance with the law as it continues to evolve in this space. So as we've been saying, Ripple went to their lawyers, they drafted up these contracts in a way that they wouldn't be investment contracts, but they would just be straightforward distributions of XRP, just basically straight up sales, basically a straight up bill of sale, right? Where there's no expectations, there's no lockup periods. You want 1 million XRP, here's the price, pay us the cash, you get the XRP, done deal, essentially. And so although the SEC got this big victory, right? Oh, they get to look at the financial statements. What are they going to see? Ripple made a bunch of money. Ripple has a very successful business. What are they going to see with the contracts? That plenty of institutions want XRP. In fact, many of them want XRP, and they want a lot of it. And we're going to get to see how successful that business has been. Now, we also continue to watch here. This is very, very important right here. Ripple's licensing wars. Check this out right here, folks. Ripple licensing wars. And they talk about how they have received that license from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the registration as a virtual asset service provider by the Central Bank of Ireland. And to date, Ripple holds a New York BIT license and has secured money transmitter licenses in nearly 40 jurisdictions in the US. So despite the SEC lawsuit, they've got access money transmitter licenses in 40 states, including New York. Now, we continue to watch here. Major, and this is, licenses to do business with digital assets and move money around in all of the jurisdictions, right, that matter. And then they're also approaching the smaller jurisdictions like Palau, where they got Palau to put their, government-backed, US dollar-backed stablecoin on the XRP ledger. Truly incredible. Along with 10 other partnerships for central bank digital currencies as well. Now, then they go on to say here, Q4 global regulatory developments. And basically, they highlight the fact that we're cleaning up the crypto space. They do mention here the case against Coinbase and Kraken and the SEC, fighting that case against them. But then they go on to say on November 2nd, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was found guilty. CZ pled guilty, $4.3 billion fine served up to Binance, as Secretary Janet Yellen calls them, right? And so basically, we're just cleaning up the space. And then when it comes to regulators that are moving forward, they mentioned the Dubai Financial Services Authority opened external applications for tokens to become approved for use in the Dubai International Financial Center, the DIFC, and XRP was one of the first tokens approved by the DFSA, and licensed firms within the DIFC can now integrate XRP into their virtual asset services, potentially unlocking faster and more efficient global value exchange. This is getting really interesting, folks. Now, they go on here and they share a couple charts, XR price and realized volatility. What's interesting to note right here, though, is the 365-day average daily volume. right? So you got about 8 billion, almost 9 billion of average daily volume in that would be Bitcoin, sorry. And then for Ethereum, it's 3.3 billion. And then for XRP, the average was 636 million. So we were down this year, and we're looking for those numbers to grow immensely. And basically all these numbers right here, just on these top three, were basically double at least, right, during the bull run. So we're expecting that to grow once again. We'll continue on here. They show some of the spot exchange volumes. And then this is where it gets interesting right here. The state of the XRP ledger. The Q4 in Q4, the validator voting process approved AMMs. That's XLS30D. Then we got new amendments coming in here as well. On October 6th, Bishop Fox delivered remediation reports for the EVM sidechain. Remediation reports, my apologies. Remediation reports for the EVM sidechain and the XLS38 cross-chain bridge. The results did not find any critical or high severity issues, and all of the reports are listed here. So the EVM sidechain, XLS38 cross-chain bridge, good to go from a security standpoint. And remember that the AMM did get delayed. They found a bug. They've already issued the fix. The fix is ready to get implemented in the next couple weeks, and AMM will be on the way in the next couple months. And then lastly, several notable projects in the community brought more innovative use cases and utility to the XRP. Uphold launching the self-custody wallet Vault with initial support for XRP with plans to expand to Bitcoin in the beginning of this year. And you guys can find the link for Uphold if you guys are looking to use them for an exchange. And they do have the new self-custody Vault as well. That's listed at my website with all of our crypto resources. DApp Radar announced the integration of the XRP ledger, enabling access to data and insights on apps within the XRP ledger ecosystem, tracking their performance and key metrics. This is all critical infrastructure. It's not as sexy necessarily as some of the other deals, but it's all so important. Band Protocol announced its integrations with the XRP ledger, making it the primary Oracle provider for XRP ledger's mainnet and its EVM sidechain. So now we got the Oracle ready to go between the XRPL mainnet and the EVM sidechain. That's critical. We need oracles, especially for real-world asset tokenization, right? You need oracles that can go fetch data that's off-chain. Adito Digital Asset Custody plans to integrate with Kronos Chain and the XRP ledger, streamlining the coding process to protect and support tokens across both EVM and non-EVM chains. Absolutely fantastic. Now, we note right here, last quarter, on-chain transactions increased by 34% and the number of wallets increased by over 30%. Notably, the NFT use case continued to gain traction with more than 5 million mints and more than 1 million sales, totaling nearly $10 million in sales volume for NFTs on the XRP ledger, which is nothing. Nothing. We need to grow that, and we'll grow that in a major way too when real-world assets get tokenized as NFTs on the XRP ledger, right? And some of these other utilities and amendments will allow for more tokenization, more NFTs coming on the XRP ledger. 10 million in the quarter is nothing, right? More than half of all NFTs minted took place in Q4, increasing more than 400% compared to Q3. Now, in regards to on-chain activity, there's a few things that I wanted to point out to you guys right here. First off, transactions quarter on quarter up 34%. Love to see it. Let's wake up. Let's get back out of this bear market. Let's get that activity rolling. XRP burn for transaction fees up 30%. Remember, XRP is deflationary as we burn it in every single transaction that we send across that ledger. Now, the volume on the DEX down 75%. This is where we need to improve, right? But this is also volume on DEX in USD. So you have XRP that, was only up about 7% on price quarter over quarter. But the volume in DEX in dollar terms was down 75%. That's a lot of activity that fell off. We need to get that back up from 218 million in Q3 to only 54 million in Q4. We're just seeing less activity, which is the same deal across most chains. Now, the amount of trust lines down 2%, and the number of new wallets is up 32%. This is big. Only 157,000 wallets added in Q3. We had 208,000 added in Q4. That is up quarter on quarter 32%. So important And we just crossed the $5 million wallet, XRP wallets total. Love to see it. They do talk about Chris Larson getting hacked. And remember that this was an isolated incident and the Ripple wallets have not been compromised. This was not an XRP Ledger hack. This was not Ripple wallets getting hacked. This was simply just some of Chris Larson's wallets that were basically compromised. Okay. Now, this is the most interesting part probably right here as we get to observe how Ripple has been handling this treasury, this reserve, right? This reserve of the reserve currency of the new financial system. How have they been handling this ledger, this escrow? We get to look here at the numbers, and there's a very, very important metric that I want to show you guys. What we have here, you have two categories, right? Two categories of XRP that Ripple has, which is the XRP that they hold outside of the escrow and then XRP that they hold in the escrow. Now, what you notice is that they did reduce the amount of XRP that they have in the escrow and the amount that they hold. Now, they reduced the amount that they're holding outside of the escrow down to about 5 billion. And that is down 180.5 million from the quarter before. So their own XRP outside of the escrow that they can actually use, they actually reduced that by 180 million. I'm going to assume that they sold it off. They didn't give it away. So they sold 180 million XRP in Q4. What happened with the escrow? Well, the escrow was reduced by 600 million, or if we break it up, 200 million per month, right? Because this is the full quarter, October, November, December. So that means that 200 million XRP was distributed from the escrow. And we obviously have XRP getting sold off as well. Some of it still being held outside of the escrow. And this is in that total XRP held by Ripple, which is reduced by 180 million. And then the amount in escrow was reduced by 600 million. Now, what's interesting is this is where the folks want to say, oh, Ripple's dumping on us. The fact that Ripple was able to reduce their holdings by 780 million XRP and the price of XRP went up. Remember, the price of XRP went up by 7% this quarter, proves that that's not the case. They are distributing XRP, but as Johnny there on Twitter had said right before we went into the quarterly report, they're not discounting the XRP that they're selling OTC over the counter to these on-demand liquidity institutions. They're selling this XRP, maybe slightly discounted, but they're still getting some cash for it. This is why they're so flush right now. But their ability to distribute that much XRP and have XRP price go up 7% still shows and proves that, yeah, they're putting XRP into circulation, but they are not dumping on us. The other data point that we have to confirm that they're not dumping on us, retail investors, is that us retail investors don't get to buy it until it's bought by another exchange, another market maker that's, gonna sell off some to an exchange, and it's gonna work its way down for us to be able to buy. But the fact that they were able to put, 780 million worth of XRP into circulating XRP supply, right? Not held by Ripple, and price went up, just proves that they're not having, although you could argue that they're still having a negative effect on price, and that if they wouldn't have done that, the XRP maybe would have gone up more. You could maybe make that argument. That's reasonable to say that if they wouldn't have sold off, 180 million outside of the escrow, and then 600 million was released from the escrow, and clearly they sold, most of that as well, because they reduced their overall holdings outside of the escrow by 180 million, right? So we have 780 million that they sold off total. In one quarter, price of XRP goes up. Would it have gone up more? Sure, maybe, right? But where is the XRP being distributed to? It's being distributed exclusively, as we just noted, as they just confirmed in this report right here too. It's only going to on-demand liquidity institutional partners in OTC deals, meaning it does not hit the public exchanges. It does not hit the public markets, which means that it does not have an impact on price. When you sell over the counter, you're not impacting the market until the news gets out. And usually this happens through public companies having to release this type of information. What do we have here? A company that's private that is still releasing all this information. Now, they have moved and they stopped reporting on, basically the ODL sales that were done, but you can see that they sold off 780 million worth of XRP, right? We have 180 million reduced from their wallets outside of the escrow. We have 600 million reduced from the escrow. And so our total here is 780 million XRP that they sold, or maybe they gave away some of it, which they do a lot of grants. So maybe they did, right? They've been giving away millions of dollars worth of grants, tens of millions of dollars worth of grants in different programs and investments. And the historical acquisition of Medico, not mentioned here in this market report. It happened earlier in the year, so it really wasn't part of the Q4 market report. But as you can see, the fundamentals just continue to get better and stronger. And even though Ripple's not reporting on their ODL sales, they're telling us that they are only selling to ODL institutional partners. So we can assume right there, we can run with those numbers, do a quick math equation and determine how much XRP they sold, right? Now, we know that they're not reporting on this because the SEC is trying to use it against them. So can you blame them? Of course, the haters and the fuzzers would say, that Ripple's trying to cover up their tracks. That's not the case. They're trying to cover themselves from getting sued. Once again, having the SEC try to include all of these other sales in the initial claim, which at this point, the SEC gets to take a look at the contracts, and then they're going to argue to the judge, hey, judge, they sold billions of dollars worth of XRP after the lawsuit. You need to make this fine worth $1 billion. The SEC is going to work the art of the deal. They're going to start the negotiations out high. They're going to say, you need to issue fines of 500 million, $1 billion, because Ripple's been making billions off of this. And the way that they're doing it, this is exactly what we want. Distribute it into the hands of institutions that have trillion-dollar problems, that are moving and storing hundreds of trillions of dollars. Please don't sell it to us Joe Blow retail. And when you consider selling pressure, right? The selling pressure is not coming from Ripple selling to their on-demand liquidity partners. It's just not. They're over-the-counter transactions. And it's money that doesn't have to come from retail Joe Blow. We don't have to come up with that money. Even if we did, we can't. They're not selling it to us. They're not even selling programmatically to exchanges as far as we know. They're only selling to on-demand liquidity institutions, and maybe those institutions get left with some XRP left over that they're not using for ODL. It's very simple. Tyrus, I want to thank you for the 3 spot. Really do appreciate the super chat there, brother. Appreciate the love and support tonight, guys. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like this video. If you guys can do me a big favor and share it out far and wide. I am going to wrap up this session, but I have never felt more bullish about XRP than we do right now, right where we're at here today. I'm not here to give you financial advice, but I am here to break it down from the current events, the financial markets, and our investment thesis on how we are going to get on the right side of the transfer of wealth that is already underway. It is undeniable, confirmed in the data, confirmed in the green candles getting printed right now on the charts. There's money moving every single day, and it's moving 24/7, 365 across the world, as we have a world that is now getting tapped in to an internet of value that is something that we're going to be exponentially growing out over the next decades to come. And folks are mad because price hasn't gone up today. It didn't go up last month, didn't go up the year before, but that does not mean that we need to discount our recency bias, which is us only being able to see what we've experienced recently and what's right in front of us. And even when the documents and the evidence gets put right in front of us, we still want to discount it because we'd rather just look at the price on the screen. And our $500 didn't turn into $1,000 yet. But I know that's not you guys. We have mature, reasonable adults, investors, business owners alike, all in this community, tapped in on a daily basis. And I just want to say thank you for spreading out the word, for getting people into our channel, Whether it's family, friends, anyone that can join our community, get tapped in and bring their ideas. Bring your business plan. Bring your investment thesis. Challenge our ideas. We're here to learn too. And we're going to continue showing up on a daily basis. We are going to take advantage of this opportunity. At the beginning of this year, we set our intentions. We knew we needed to control our energy. The crap is getting thick out there, folks, and you better be ready to wade on through it. And then finally, we set a mission and an objective to bring order to the chaos around us. You guys already know the deal. Everything can be found on my website, ZachRector.com. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. We'll see you in the next one. God bless.